Welcome to EPG Pathshala. The module that I am going to discuss is on probability and measure, and today I will be talking about continuity theorem. So far we have learned the concepts of measure and its different properties. Now we will start with the basic thing, set function, whether it may be sigma additive or additive set function. From this set function we will try to find the continuity theorem. So, it is something like very similar to what we have done in calculus, how to define a continuous function. We say a function is continuous if it is left continuous as well as right continuous. Here also we have something like that. For a sequence of sets, we will be interested to know whether continuous, the set function is continuous or not, and if it is continuous, how to define this continuity. And this whole lecture will be dedicated to this continuity theorem of set function and as a special case measure and probability measure. We will be starting with the concept of continuity for a sequence of sets. To define this, first we say the statement. It says, let lambda be an additive set function defined on omega and script f. Omega is the reference set and script f is the corresponding sigma field, which is constructed using the subsets of omega. Then it says that if lambda is sigma additive, that implies for an belongs to script f, where an is a sequence of monotonically increasing sets, then limit lambda an will be lambda of limit an, and we have already discussed that for a sequence of increasing sets, monotonically increasing sets, its limit will go to its union. So, it will be lambda union over n from 1 to infinity an, and we denote it by a bar. So, basically it says lambda is continuous from below. So, limit of lambda an will be lambda of a bar. So, this is the first part we will be going to prove. Now, what will happen if the sequence is monotonically decreasing? Then also we have a statement like this: if lambda is sigma additive, that implies for an belongs to script f, the corresponding sigma field, where an is a sequence of monotonically decreasing sets, and we have another restriction that lambda a1 is finite. We will discuss later the role of this assumption, that why we need this assumption that lambda must be finite. In that case also we have limit of lambda an will be lambda of limit an, and we know that for a decreasing sequence of sets, the limit will goes to its intersection. So, it will be lambda intersection n from 1 to infinity an, and we denote it by a bar. So, its limit lambda an is lambda a bar. Now, we want to see the converse part too. So, in this case we say lambda is continuous from above, and we say, just like the concept of calculus, lambda is continuous if it is continuous from above and below. So, whenever we are saying that the additive set function is continuous, it necessarily means that it is continuous from below as well as from above. If lambda is continuous from below, then it implies lambda is sigma additive. So, these two conditions, that if lambda is sigma additive for a sequence of increasing monotonically increasing sets, they are continuous from below, and the converse is also true. If lambda is finite and continuous at phi, the null set, that implies that lambda is sigma additive. So, there are 4 parts in this statement. It is interesting to note that the proof of the first part will constitute the proof of all other parts. So, we will focus on how to prove the first part, that is, if lambda is sigma additive, then limit of lambda an will be lambda of a bar. Now, consider the sequence of sets an which are monotonically increasing, and we define bi as E1 complement, A2 complement, intersection ai minus complement and ai. And it is very interesting to note that union over I from 1 to infinity ai is equals to union over I from 1 to infinity bi. The beauty of this construction is such that all bi's are mutually disjoint. For example, take B1. B1 is nothing but A1, and if you take B2, it is A1 complement A2. So, B1 and B2, they are mutually disjoint. So, whenever they are mutually disjoint, we can apply different results which are available for disjoint sets. So, using this concept, lambda of union over I from 1 to infinity AI is same as lambda of union over I from 1 to infinity Bi, because these two unions are same. Then you just put the expression for Bi, what we have assumed, it's A1 complement, A2 complement, Ai minus 1 complement and Ai. Now, since these all sets are mutually disjoint and lambda is the additive set function, sigma additive set function, this union can be replaced by its summation, because the sets are mutually disjoint. So, it will be sum over I from 1 to infinity lambda of A1 complement intersection A2 complement intersection Ai minus complement Ai. Now, what we can do, we can change the sum to I from 1 to n, and we take the limit n tends to infinity to make it a finite sum. So, it will be sum over I from 1 to n lambda of A1 complement, A2 complement, Ai minus 1 complement and Ai, and limit is taken outside. Now, we already have assumed that lambda is sigma additive. Then using the concept, what we are doing, we are just changing the summation to union. So, it will be limit n tends to infinity lambda union over I from 1 to n A1 complement into intersection A2 complement intersection Ai minus 1 complement intersection Ai, because lambda is sigma additive. That implies this is nothing but Bi. So, we are taking union over Bi is similar of union over Ai, as limit n tends to infinity lambda union over Ai, and if we take the limit, then it will be limit n tends to infinity lambda of An. Why this is An? Because if you consider A1, A2, An, this is a sequence of monotone increasing sets. If they are monotonically increasing, then their union will be their highest one. So, whatever we are taking is the union, and among these sets An is the maximum, the highest one. So, we have lambda of An. So, limit n tends to infinity lambda An. We have started with the thing that lambda of union over I from 1 to infinity Ai is same as limit n tends to infinity lambda An. So, lambda of limit is equals to limit of lambda for a sequence of monotonically increasing sets. This completes the first part of the proof, and this will be the basis of other proofs. So, we must focus on this proof very carefully. Now, consider the second part, where we have to consider a set of decreasing, monotonically decreasing sets. So, it is a sequence of monotonically decreasing sets. We will be using the result that we have already obtained. Now, we define Bn as A1 minus An. Since An is monotonically decreasing, that means A1 is the maximum or highest set in that sequence. And what we are doing, we are taking the difference from A1 minus An. As n tends to infinity, what we will be getting this Bn as a sequence of monotonically increasing sets. So, whenever we have a monotonically increasing sets, then we can use the previous result what we have already done. So, lambda union over I from 1 to infinity Bi will be limit of lambda Bn. This result we already have proved. Now, if we put the value of Bn or the expression of Bn, it is lambda A1 minus An. Now, it is interesting to note that A1, the set A1 can be written as A1 minus An union over An. Now, these two sets on the right side, that means A1 minus An and An, they are mutually disjoint. If they are disjoint, then lambda of this A1 can be written as lambda A1 minus An plus lambda An. That means lambda A1 minus An can be written as lambda A1 minus lambda An. Using this concept, what we are getting, lambda union over I from 1 to infinity A1 minus Ai will be lambda A1, because it is independent of n. So, limit will not hamper its expression, minus limit n tends to infinity lambda An. Now, if this lambda A1 is finite, then this lambda 1 will get cancelled from both sides. Once they are cancelled both sides, from the both sides, we have the desired result. So, to get cancelled, we need this assumption that lambda must be finite, lambda a1 must be finite. Now, we are going to prove the third part of the theorem. It says that if the lambda is continuous from below, we have to prove that lambda is sigma additive. To prove this, we first construct Bn is union over I from 1 to n ai. Now, note that as n increases, we will be taking more sets in the union. So, Bn is a sequence of monotonically increasing sets. Now, using the same result that we have already derived, we can say limit Bn is n from 1 to infinity Bn is same as I from 1 to infinity ai, because these are two same. Now, if you take the measure the sigma additive set function lambda, that is lambda union over I from 1 to infinity ai, it will be lambda limit n tends to infinity Bn, and since lambda is continuous from below, what we have that limit n tends to infinity lambda of Bn. Now, we just replace the for Bn we can write is nothing but union over Bi I from 1 to n, because this is a sequence of monotonically increasing sets, and we know that the union will go to the highest of its sets. So, it is Bn. Now, since lambda is additive, so we can use the concept of or the property of additive set function, that for disjoint sets the union lambda of union can be written as sum over lambda, and this sum is finite sum since lambda is additive set function. And this completes the proof of the third part. Now, we will come to the last part of the proof. Suppose that Bn decreases, the sequence Bn decreases and it goes to null set phi. Then what will happen? Then limit n tends to infinity lambda Bn will be lambda limit n tends to Bn, and we know that the limit of Bn is phi and lambda phi is 0, because lambda is set function. If we consider disjoint sets a1, a2, an and so on so forth, ai intersection aj is phi, they are disjoint. Now, we define Bn as a bar, that is the lim sup, minus I from 1 to infinity ai, I from 1 to n ai as the sets. Now, if you note that if we increase n, that means we are going to the lim sup of the supremum of the sets. So, basically this is going to be a decreasing set. So, Bn is a sequence of monotonically decreasing sets. So, using the previous results for monotonically decreasing sets, limit lambda Bn will be lambda limit Bn, and we know that limit Bn is phi. So, lambda phi will be 0. If we use this result, then what will happen? It says Bn is nothing but a bar minus union over I from 1 to n ai. So, it is lambda a bar minus I from 1 to n ai is equals to lambda limit of a bar minus I from 1 to n ai. Now, the left part, left hand side of this final equation, it says limit n tends to infinity lambda a bar minus lambda I from 1 to n ai is equals to 0. That implies the lambda a bar is equals to limit n tends to infinity I from 1 to n lambda ai. So, this completes the proof for the fourth part too. So far, we have proved one very important theorem. It is the continuity theorem for a set function. Now, we will try to extend this concept for measure. So, it is nothing but just you have to define a measure space, that much modification is needed. So, we say omega script f and mu be the measure space. So, mu is the measure we are talking about, and script f is usual sigma field constructed by the subsets of this reference set omega. Now, if an belongs to script f and an is a sequence of monotonically increasing sets, then mu of an will goes to mu of a bar. This is the lim sup. And if an is a sequence of decreasing sets, then mu of an will goes to mu of a underline, that means it is the lim inf. Now, we can similarly extend this concept to the probability measure, which is a special case of additive set function. Instead of mu, here we are considering p be the probability measure, and corresponding space will become probability space. So, all the terms will remain all the same. For a sequence of monotonically increasing function a n, probability of a n will goes to probability of limit of a n. Similarly, for a decreasing set also, limit of probability a n will be probability of limit of a n. Now, in my one of the previous slides, I pointed out one important question, that whether the mu a 1 is finite, this assumption is necessary or not. I will give you an example to show that yes, it is necessary. Consider omega as the reference set as interval 0 1, and we define the set function as mu a is 0 if a is countable, and it is infinity if a is co-countable, and mu phi is usually 0. Now, a set is said to be co-countable if its complement set is countable. Now, we consider a n as a sequence of sets defined as interval 0 1 over n. Now, using the previous definition, what will be mu a n? It says mu of a n will be infinity. Now, a n decreases to phi, as n increases, a n decreases and it goes to null set. Now, mu phi is 0, which is not equals to limit of mu a n. So, it shows that if mu is not finite, then this continuity theorem will not hold. So, this assumption is very necessary. The continuity theorem we have learned so far for a set function, whether it is sigma additive set function or measure or a special measure called probability, has many applications. We will come to know later on that this will be used in case of proving central limit theorem and any other convergences too. And there are few theories or lemmas available, for example, Fatu's lemma or monotone convergence theorem. In those cases also this continuity theorem will be applied. So, it is very important to understand the concept of this continuity theorem, just like a concept of continuous function in case of calculus, because whenever we are talking about integration in calculus, we always talked about the continuous function. So, if f is continuous, then we go for the integration and so on and so forth. Here also, once we define the continuity for a sequence of sets, then we can go for measurable function or integrable function in later courses. So, this will give a basis to construct measurable function or integrable function, which will be discussed later on.